I can finally see it. You're no master of chaos. And at the rate this story is progressing, King Arthur, you never will be. Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Rebel4765, and a Midnight Gemlord. Now, before having this breakdown / discussion on how Arthur, after 16 years, has failed to master the power of chaos, please unfairly leave your own thoughts on whether or not Arthur has mastered the power of chaos in the comments section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month. We link exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and a thing that I've been going back and forth on, really ever since we met Arthur, is whether or not he really has control over chaos, right? Because he is called the King of Chaos, the one who is meant to hold and control chaos and be its one true rightful vessel, and use its power to create a perfect everlasting kingdom. But as time progressed, and we've seen more of this Arthur, and we've heard more of this Arthur, and learned more and more about his creations and what they do, and all of it, I fear, even after 16 years of being the vessel for the creator of the world, he has not come any closer to mastering it. Or rather, whatever progress he has made is quite minimal. And there are a couple reasons behind that. Number one, I will admit, 16 years to master the power of a deity is quite a short time period, especially when said deity is as old as the world itself. Admittedly, if I were to walk up to you right now and say, hey, I give you the power to control and create anything you can imagine. The only thing you need to do is maintain it properly. I think you would probably very likely struggle with that ability, considering right now you probably couldn't even punch down a brick wall. If I gave you that power, you probably would be able to make 1,000,000 brick walls and shatter them with a thought. But that's the thing. If your power is reliant on thoughts, imagination, focus, it'd be pretty hard to control, even for most people. Take the most focused man on the planet and tell him he has to maintain a planet simply with his thoughts, and things get difficult. Things get complicated, things get hard, and that's where we get to Camelot, as described by Ironside himself in the recent chapter, The Kingdom of Phantasms and Many Secrets. And I suppose Camelot is the biggest example of what I view to be Arthur's general lack of control. Now, notably, is it possible that Arthur just likes the chaotic aesthetic? Entirely possible. Maybe that's just him expressing himself in his own unique way. I know I have my own little weird things as an artist that I like to do, so considering Arthur is the artist who created his own world using the power of chaos, maybe he himself just likes the look of it. However, note how, in comparison to pretty much all the other realms we've seen, Camelot seems much less like a stable planet, an ecosystem of any sorts, and just a random collection of ideas, as if Arthur himself couldn't exactly pin down what he wanted to do, or exactly put out what he wanted to do, so he mainly just got down the basics, the most important parts, and was like, okay, fine, we'll work with this and keep adding on here and there depending on what I need to do. This is displayed mostly by, like, the fact that his castle is floating upside down in the sky, the fact that the land masses are far from interconnected, the fact that everything there seems to be strange and unnatural, to the point where Guinevere, a woman who can see the future, and knows all the way up to the point of her death, and likely spent a majority of that time in Camelot if this timeline that we've gotten hints of is to be believed, she even describes that there's no reality there. And just a quick reminder, if you're wondering what reality means, there are a couple definitions, but I'll read to you the main two. Definition 1, the world or state of things as they actually exist, as opposed to the idealistic or notional idea of them. And or, definition number 2, the state or quality of having existence or substance. So, when Camelot is described as something that lacks reality, a world of phantasms and secrets, it at least implies to me that it's barely stable. It barely has existence or substance, if any at all. If anything, it could just be a massive dream, very akin to the idea presented in Link's Awakening, where the entire world he explored within that adventure was nothing more than essentially a living nightmare. And with that being the case, it implies to me that Arthur doesn't know how to use chaos properly in order to maintain a proper world. Because look at our main world, the world where our entire cast really lives, the mortal realm. It is entirely stable. Sure, you can argue that the existence of certain creatures on there may make it a bit unstable, such as all the monsters born from chaos in the intermittent period between its sealing and its release. But even then, you don't have people questioning its reality. You don't have people questioning its substance or its palpability. It's there. It's solid. It's constant. Even with chaos itself seemingly spending a majority of its time either A, sealed away, B, in purgatory, or C, not even in the current realm, considering it's existing in this realm of almost unreality. And with that being the case, it seems like chaos itself can make stable worlds. It can make worlds that have reality, can make worlds with substance, worlds that are, for all intents and purposes, real and not composed of phantasms and illusions and secrets. So, Arthur, the current vessel of chaos, the wielder of chaos, the king of chaos, not being able to make a realm that at least mimics the real one is concerning. It's not good. At least in terms of his mastery. The idea that he has this much power at his disposal yet is failing to make one single realm that actually exists properly is worrying. And of course, I could see this being argued against by the fact that we've only seen a tiny portion of Camelot. We've gotten descriptors of it by, admittedly, very biased sources. Ironside was singing a song, and Guinevere was speaking after she had just arrived. Though, I will admit, Ironside has spent a lot of his time in Camelot, and if he is singing a song, I highly doubt he created it. And Guinevere is simultaneously 12 and 71. She's literally a walking woman on her deathbed. So, if anything, both of these sources believing that Camelot is barely real, barely has any substance at all, is even more concerning, as these are two assumedly long-lived residents of Camelot. Ironside for possibly upwards of 15 to 16 years, and Guinevere for, assumedly if she stays in Camelot from the age of 12 to the age of 71, that is a whole 59 years of understanding and experience that still makes her believe that this world lacks reality. However, I've been focusing so much on Camelot itself, one of the main productions of chaos, but let's look at Arthur himself. For the longest time, and I assume until we get it confirmed or denied, there's been a discussion going on whether or not Arthur is Arthur, or it's chaos, or Cath, either one, manifesting themselves through Arthur, whether it be directly as in controlling him, considering he has been touted as being very different ever since he got the power of chaos, and or influencing him, as once again, he's been touted as being different ever since he got the power of chaos, but not necessarily un-Arthur-like. Even we as readers are able to recognize a lot of his tendencies simply amplified. But, hypothetically, if you had full control over something, it realistically shouldn't be able to influence you. Say I were to give you a tool. Yes, a tool, and that tool is nothing more than a tool. It has supposedly no will of its own, and it simply operates on instinct. You can say it's a hammer, for example. A hammer should not be able to influence you if you fully know how to use it. It may swing you around a bit if you are careless with it, but it should not be able to make you more of a monster than you are, or make you a monster at all. But seemingly, Arthur himself is changed. He's different. This is confirmed by not just multiple sources like Varghese and Meliodas, but it's also confirmed by us, the readers, looking in from our outer world onto Arthur himself. Take a look at Arthur in the original series, and you would never see him disemboweling one of his own men while trying to get poison out of them after they failed a mission. Looking at Arthur, you wouldn't see him trying to slay Meliodas and viewing the 7 deadly sins as one of the greatest threats to him, even though they swore to protect him alongside Merlin. You would not see Arthur being so, for lack of a better term, chaotic. He seems manipulated, or at least not fully himself. And, seemingly, if he had actually mastered chaos over these past 16 years, he would be himself. However, I can fully understand the idea that people are hopeful. People are hopeful that maybe these darker attitudes and this more chaotic nature is just character development. It's actually something that progressed over time off screen that we have just yet to see. Because we know very little of Arthur. We know he's one of our main antagonists. We've seen him ever since, I believe, the early 20s in terms of chapters in this new antagonist role. And obviously, his men do speak for him and his presence, to put it nicely, and how he operates now. However, it just seems strange. A man that was so kind, so willing, so caring, turned into a chaotic, ever-flipping, sometimes kind, sometimes crazed monster. I don't know. It seems more like he's being directly manipulated by a being of such great light and such great darkness and such insane balance that he can barely control himself. And thusly, he is not in control, and he has not mastered the power that he has by, I suppose, a supposed authority, a king's authority, if you will, for he is the king of chaos, yet it seems like he is more a chaos king, where chaos has affected him, and his ideology, his actions, and his personality, to the point where one of his own men would turn coats against him and run away out of fear of the man he has become in an instant. That seems like a man who is not in control. And I suppose the final thing of issue that brings me this idea of a lack of control is the fact that Arthur is limited. Very, very limited. At least if I'm to be believed by his actions. So let's say, you and me, you had the power to turn your enemy's bones into jello and watch as they fall, unable to support themselves under their own muscles. Tell me, how long would you wait to take care of your enemies? Let's just say, hypothetically, in this scenario of ours, instead of being more than mighty enough to turn your bones to jello, this power that you have is able to erase things, remove them entirely, or perhaps seal them away in a different realm where they can definitely no longer interfere with your actions and will eventually perish due to starvation and the not. Or maybe even this, you can turn their entire body into jello and watch as they fall, for they can no longer move. Wouldn't you think that any hypothetical enemies you would have would be less enemies and more desserts, as they are now jello? Because you control reality. You can literally turn anything into anything at a moment's notice. And thusly, any threats you would have wouldn't be predicated by, oh no, I do not know what their next action would be. Oh no, I do not fully know where they're going to be. I need some sort of ability to see the future. That's the issue. If Arthur had truly mastered the power of chaos, when Meliodas showed his back to him, offered himself essentially as a sacrifice to the chaotic king, Arthur would have not swung a lesser blade. He would have not brought Carwin on. He would have not done any sword fighting at all. He would have simply removed Meliodas in one way or another. However, the most we see of Arthur in battle with his chaos powers is simple regeneration. Nothing more. That's it. He doesn't use any ability to create worlds, to create alternate realms. He doesn't use any reality alteration. He even leaves Lostvayne exactly how it is and blocks against it as if he needs to take Meliodas in a sword fight. Like there's no other abilities he has that could wipe Meliodas from existence. Or anything of the like. Same thing with the rest of the sins. Hypothetically, I could definitely see an argument for Arthur in character not wanting to take out Meliodas in such a disrespectful way, right? Obviously, he has some sort of respect for Meliodas, even if Meliodas, with a lack of control over himself, ruined his entire kingdom. Still, Meliodas was an icon, a hero to him, so maybe it was just respect that he wanted to take out Meliodas with a blade, in honor of the great sin of wrath. However, this idea falls apart when he runs into Lancelot, the Knight of War. What preconceived notions does he have about Lancelot? What respect would he have for him? If anything, all he needs to do is end him instantaneously, especially once Lancelot had the nerve to make him bleed and rip out his own 2 teeth. Doesn't it seem like if you truly had control over this great power you've been gifted, being the King of Chaos, you would simply turn Lancelot into Jello? My apologies, I do not know why my mind is on Jello. I need to stop being hungry when I record these videos. But with that being the case, it seems to me that Arthur just doesn't have full control. For some reason or another, he cannot use chaos as optimally as he should. Now, I can entirely understand the meta reason behind this. We need to have a plot. That's the thing. We cannot have Arthur be 100% efficient or 100% reasonable or 100% on the money or on the ball with his abilities, because if he is, we do not have a story. Simple and clear cut as that. We need a story because we need 4 knights, and if we have Arthur being on true, proper chaos timing, the world probably wouldn't exist anymore. He wouldn't have to worry about Meliodas or the Sins or the Knights or anything like that. He would just wipe them all out casually with his reality warping, an ability heretofore unseen in the rest of the world. But obviously, we need to have a plot. I think the interesting ideas are why we have a plot, rather than accepting and leaving the fact that we have a plot and calling it a day. So, why couldn't Arthur master chaos, right? It's been 16 years, and even if he needs more than 16 years, assumedly, he has free and total access to purgatory. His right-hand woman, the mage Merlin, can quite easily send him there. If she from a remote range can send Hawk to purgatory, it should be entirely likely that when she's right next to her king, she could send him to purgatory and say, hey, call me back when you're done and you've been able to master all this. And that's if he even needs her help. Once again, the dude has chaos in him. But seemingly, over these 16 years, if anything, it's been chaos sort of driving the boat. Or Kath sort of driving the boat, because Arthur has very basic level mastery that his whole world that he's been endeavoring to create, this perfect everlasting kingdom, is very little more than phantasms and secrets. He can barely use his powers in the outside world, at least if we're to be believed, after his battle with both Meliodas and Lancelot. And overall, for over a decade and a half of training with the power that created the world, it seems like he barely is any better with it. Like, sure, is it impressive that he made an alternate world? Yeah. You know what Kath did with about 15 seconds of having a fraction of Chaos's power? Made an alternate world. So, 15 seconds, 16 years. You can run the mathematics on that. And I suppose the main question is why, right? Why have it so that Arthur cannot master the power of chaos, other than the fact that he needs to not have it mastered for the sake of a plot? I think it's, once again, to fit the whole narrative of saving Arthur. Right? Maybe if he was fully entrenched in this chaotic power, he fully understood it, he fully mastered it, he would never give it up. Ever. Because why would you? Like, would you give up the power to control the world and all of its facets and literally choose how things work and operate? because your friends don't like the way you are now that you could do it. And I mean, depends on the friend, I guess, but me personally, if I had something like the Reality Stone from the Marvel movies and I could make reality whatever I wanted it to be, yeah, it'd be pretty hard to separate me from that power. However, if I could never master that power and it was essentially causing me more trouble than it was worth, like I was flipping back and forth, slowly going insane, barely maintaining whatever I create with using massive fractions of my power, as at least it's implied by Arthur being unable to use any of the full power of like reality warping or anything like that in the battle in Leonis, I could definitely see maybe wanting to get rid of that power, especially if it's either A, not really going to anyone else, and or B, is just not gonna be a hassle on me anymore. Because I gotta imagine maintaining Camelot doesn't just take a lot of raw magical power, but it probably takes a lot of mental power. Once again, chaos is operated purely by thoughts and imaginations, meaning Arthur likely needs to keep his thoughts and whatever thoughts he has under proper control, because if he just thinks, I wonder what happened if Camelot just didn't exist, suddenly the whole realm falls apart. At least I'd assume. Chaos seems like a power that operates semi-subconsciously. You even see this when Arthur whips it out against Lancelot. He's like, oh, yeah, you can read my mind, but this big, girthy, fleshy arm thing here, Chaos itself, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have a mind. It just do what it do. And if it always do what it do, to the point where Arthur can't fully master doing what it do, then yeah, I can definitely see Arthur eventually growing tired of it, especially if a lot of people just keep pressing him about it. Like, hey, dude, if you can't keep it in your arm, get rid of it. Stop doing this. You're doing too much. You're getting a little bit too crazy. Of course, do I think this will happen anytime soon? No, not necessarily. If Ironside and Pelgard are any examples alongside Mortlock, I don't think his knights necessarily care. And heck, look at what they did the moment Arthur got the power. They kept serving him, and according to Varghese himself, kept encouraging him to stay on this path, stay on this beautiful creation path, even though it's literally tearing their king apart, at least seemingly mentally, and very likely physically, considering the fact that with all the cosmic power in the world, he doesn't have an arm. So I think it's very likely that in the end, Arthur will probably never master chaos. Because if he ever does, then he has no reason to leave chaos. He has no reason to be saved. And if he doesn't have that, then what's the point of Arthur? Of course, if Arthur's our final villain, then maybe he will master chaos, and that'll be the point where they need to literally beat it out of him. But I don't know. I feel like with the whole idea and how Arthur's been written before this, and how characters speak about Arthur as he was once better, this is not Arthur, in the conventional sense that it is Arthur, and the overall lack of control and lack of stability in both his realms and his people, to the point where these false phantasms, including Diodra or even possibly the fake Lancelot, are very unstable and need to be in Camelot itself in order for them to function. I don't know. That definitely feels like Nakaba's keeping Arthur out of the purview of mastery of chaos, not just for the fact that we need a villain and a plot to happen, because if he masters it, he solos the verse, but also because we need an out. We need a reason for Arthur to not to be the final villain. We need a reason for Arthur to be saved, for Arthur to be the renowned king that most people know him as in terms of common ideology. Arthur, unless, depending how some people want to write him, is not necessarily meant to be a villain. He's meant to be the great King Arthur, the man who leads a kingdom of many knights, and his people love him, all that good stuff. He's not meant to be a monster who slaughters the people he once respected. And with that being the case, I can definitely see this whole mastery storyline slowly but surely developing. And maybe we see him break, maybe we see him hold on to it, but one way or another, I don't think we shall ever see chaos fully mastered until we meet chaos itself. The supposed will without will that exists within Arthur and currently resides in him as a vessel that is lending him his powers for now, and who knows, maybe forever. However, due to the lack of current mastery, I can definitely see Chaos either finding a new host or deciding it does not need a host at all. That's what I think. I think Arthur doesn't have mastery of it. I don't think he's going to get mastery of it. I think he's going to end up being saved or something of the like. That's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. You can hit the notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do a Patreon down below in support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Thank you guys for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagon the Pencil, writing off.